Okay, thank you. Perfect. All right. Okay, I'm going to try and go back one. Maybe not previous. No. Okay, so in short, my point for this slide was basically just saying that our relationship with low-hanging fruit and that whole concept is we have a mixed reaction. There are times when we love when people are going after their low-hanging fruit and really trying to take every opportunity to make change. But depending on your organization, on the management culture, on the workplace culture, we often see some of our clients that get just stuck in only doing low-hanging fruit, in which case we really struggle with trying to have momentum in our program to kind of really get change going in a way we want to, which at the end of the day, what we're really looking for is not just, you know, all the positives that come with ergonomics, but we really want to see those work-related injuries start to decrease. So we want to make sure that the change and the fruit that we're picking, and we're probably going to get sick of this analogy by the time I'm done, is working in a way that's going to allow these numbers to be driven in a way that we want to. So we want to see our work-related injuries going down. We want to be able to ensure, we're having a rough time today. Okay, I'm hoping everyone can see my screen now too. Okay. And we're able to make sure that as an organization, when we say change needs to happen, that we have lots of bodies on board, because we know that that's going to be a really positive, impactful moment for not just work-related injuries, but for production, for morale, for overall kind of communication between management and employees, so that everyone is not just going home kind of feeling that they've been heard and that the change is going in the right direction. We're back to having technical difficulties. Okay, so we often feel that Einstein's quote about insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is just so apt when it comes to ergonomics. And I think you guys can all agree. We kind of get into this situation where our employees, you know, they set themselves up the same, they do have the same work methods, you know, and then they come and they say, but I'm sore and I'm uncomfortable and I'm injured, and why isn't this getting better? And we all kind of scratch our heads and we're like, well, nothing has changed. So why should you expect things to get better? And something needs to change. And whether it be the employee chooses to change their work method, change their, you know, layout of their workstation, or whether it's not the, you know, management decides to make maybe a bigger change to either the process, the equipment, or the layout, and really trying to make movement as far as just not staying stagnant. And really that's why that low-hanging fruit can be such an important part to the change model in your organization, because it can start momentum. You have to start somewhere. And typically, if we start with the $1 million idea, that's when the change doesn't happen. You know, $1 million isn't going to come out of nowhere. And so that takes time. And if we're stuck on the $1 million idea all the time, then change isn't going to happen, or at the very least, it's not going to happen quickly. And so the perception becomes no one's doing anything. No one cares. You know, I'm hurt and nothing is changing. And it becomes a negative cycle, a negative loop that we're stuck in and we can't get out. And, you know, you as organizers or coordinators or managers of the system know that change is coming, but you also know that change isn't coming soon. And time is a funny thing that way. You know, sometimes it feels like it's flying by, and other times it's a snail's pace. And if you're one of those individuals who is uncomfortable and in pain, you know, a year cannot come fast enough. So we need to kind of go for some of these low-hanging fruit options to allow the big change, the $1 million ideas change, and I'm using $1 million loosely in the terms of financial income kind of going into the idea. But the point is, we want to make sure that we're always kind of moving forward. So some of the barriers we often get is ergonomic comes at a high cost. And sometimes, you know, it does. If the solution can't be engineered out any other way, sometimes the cost is high. However, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I would say the bulk of our recommendations are coming in, you know, sometimes below the $100 to $200 mark. And the ones in between are kind of coming in from the 200 to maybe 15 to 2,000 mark. We're not talking $1 million ideas for most of the change that we need to make for workstations for the most part. So looking at the fact that ergonomics comes at a high cost, it's not. And low-hanging fruit is definitely your low-cost solutions. So these are the things that no one probably heard me say because my mic was muted. But the option is that you will be able to leave this webinar today, walk out of your office, and there will be some kind of low-hanging fruit that you can pick. And you will be able to walk up to someone's workstation or go out onto the plant floor, and there is something that you will be able to do to make that workstation or that area or that process more ergonomic. I can guarantee you, because that fruit is always there, just waiting to be picked. So one of the other challenges we often get is staff are not interested in ergonomic change or better work methods. And that is usually an indication of one of two things, in my experience anyways. One is that's kind of usually an area where we've got stuck in only picking low-hanging fruit. And what we'll talk about later is what is the impact from an injury or just impact in general, really, to whatever the problem is. Low-hanging fruit isn't going to have a really high impact. It's low cost, it's low time, it's now, and it can make people feel like there's momentum, but it may not get you the end result. It may not get you the lower injury rates. It may not get you the higher morale or, you know, participatory system that you're looking for. But so we often will see this. If people are only picking low-hanging fruit, we often see management and employees start to disengage. They don't want to bother with change because the change, we keep putting change in, we keep putting these little nickel and dime solutions in, and it's not going anywhere. So, or the other aspect is the companies go for only the big ideas. And so the employees and other members of the organization or stakeholders feel like nothing ever happens. And those are usually the two camps that we find ourselves in. And what we're looking for is trying to make sure that people are engaged and bought into our program. And our program needs to have a hierarchy of solutions in order to make everybody happy. So although we want to use low-hanging fruit in a method to try and stimulate progress and change and getting people used to the idea of change, you know, change is not a bad word. And some of those kind of little solutions that we're going to start kind of adding in here and there can help kind of massage the system so that when we do have bigger change elements that we need to implement, our employees, our management, they're like, oh yeah, no, change is good. We make change all the time. We're really proactive. We're innovative, and that's the mindset they have. And low-hanging fruit can get you there. One of the other misconceptions, companies are only concerned about their bottom line. And we know that's not true. We definitely have a social responsibility. We do not want our employees leaving the workplace in any other condition than what they arrived in. Hopefully healthy, hearty, and happy would be lovely. So we know that in order for our production bottom line to be high, that there's other bottom lines that need to be high too. And ergonomics is one of them. I mean, ergonomics not only impacts that morale and that comfort so that people can physically work more because there's no fatigue and we're not overstressing, but from a design perspective, if you are bringing things closer, if you are raising things up so there's not as much reach, then your time commitment to do the job is even less. So there's more opportunity to do more. So definitely, although bottom line is a concern for every company because that's how they stay in business, it's a matter of how we're looking at that bottom line. And if you, as organizers of the ergonomics program, can offer some low-cost, quick action solutions every now and then again, you get that buy-in from upper management that, you know, we're not asking the world. So we need to kind of look at our orchard in kind of terms of, yes, there is low-hanging fruit. We have kind of easy, low cost, but for the most part, and I'm not going to say all the time because there's definitely some solutions that have high impact and are easy and low cost, but they typically may have a lesser injury change ability than some of our other options that we have out there. So, and the higher we go up the tree, the higher the cost, the higher the impact to injury reduction. And so we need to kind of scatter our tree out a bit. We can't always be picking the low-hanging fruit. We kind of need to have a balance between the three levels of our orchard. And one way to kind of make sure that we're staying on task is to make sure that we always understand what the purpose of change is. Definitely, specifically from the employee side, I see it a lot where, oh, they change things all the time and it makes no difference. So that is a clear indication that we've lost focus on what our goal was. Why were we trying to make the change in the first place? Because if at the end of the day, whatever you were trying to grab and hold onto is not getting you the purpose, then we shouldn't make the change, because that is going to disintegrate not only our program, because we're no longer going to have the buy-in and the faith and trust from our employees that we're always moving things forward in the right direction. We start to kind of get that disengaged component. So always remember what our purpose is, and our purpose generally is going to be injury reduction, first and foremost. It could be production. Maybe we're looking at opportunities for higher efficiencies. We're looking at ergonomics to get us there, or reduce fatigue so that people aren't taking as many breaks, so there's less absenteeism. Or maybe we're looking at morale. Maybe that's what we're trying to do, because I know it sounds strange, but ergonomics definitely becomes a morale booster, because it is such an integrated system. We need all players, you know, at the table to make really good ergonomic change. And the people that get showcased the highest are usually our employees, because they are the experts at what they do. And when we engage them and treat them as such and look for their solutions for ergonomic change, now all of a sudden there's a lot more pride in what's happening, and it just becomes a very uplifting, high morale kind of situation. We also want to make sure that, depending on what layer of fruit we are picking, that we are controlling the expected outcome. If you are doing a low-hanging fruit that you know is something, you know, I've had people say, you know what, the employees have asked for a stretching program. And depending on where you are, what your organization is, what it is you do, we have at times talked people out of implementing a stretching program. And that's a whole different conversation. But at the end of the day, for this one client in particular, you know, we talked about the fact that in their environment, a stretching program probably wasn't going to equate to any amount of injury reduction. And the jobs were very varied. There was lots of kind of opportunity for rest breaks. There was a lot of stretch happening naturally. So it was like, you don't really need to do this. And the response was that, I know, but this is something my employees have asked for, that they're excited about, and we want to give this to them. We want to do this. And that is the perfect example of trying, you know, doing something that is going to be a change, but it's something that your employees are excited about and you want to force, not force, that sounds awful, but kind of keep that momentum and that excitement up. So, however, we want to control and moderate that, what the expectation is to management. We're doing this because this is a morale thing. This is an engagement process. We may see some injury reduction, but let's be clear, this is not the goal. This is not the outcome we're looking for this apple. And then looking at kind of our costs, what the impact of the control is going to be, and the people involved. So low-hanging fruit, typically, because it's usually on such a quick time frame, it has minimal involvement. Not always, but it may be something that, you as the coordinator or manager of the ergonomics program, you're kind of the only one that's been getting this information, and you unilaterally try and, make a move to make change, and it goes in that direction. But it's not necessarily having all the stakeholders at the table. Whereas when you're talking about the $1 million idea, we have purchasing, we have engineering, we have maintenance, we have senior management, everyone's at the table, because $1 million is $1 million, and we need to make sure that everyone's on board and everyone understands. So we'll need to manage that personnel and people involvement in the process as well. So as we move through our orchard and our picking of low-hanging fruit, we'll kind of see that in order to not get stuck in always picking kind of the easiest solution or the quick and fast solution or the cheapest solution, we always want to keep purpose in mind and the philosophy of we're not going to make change for change's sake. Our change, regardless of what we do, is always going to be impactful to some degree and purposeful. And we're going to understand what those purposes and impacts are going to be going in so that no one's expectations are let down at the end. Because if you only pick your low-hanging fruit, then the problem we'll often find is the good solutions start to rot. If you're constantly putting money into these kind of easy, quick solutions that we're wanting to do, then there's never going to be funding to do the $1 million idea or even the $2,000 idea, because in management's mind, we've already done a ton. What are you talking about? We make change all the time. You're constantly coming to us with change ideas, and we're constantly saying yes to them because they're constantly the low-hanging fruit. So we want to make sure that our hierarchy is such that the low-hanging fruit is really momentum, and we want to take our kind of moderate to high-impact solutions and make sure that they're kind of interspersed in whether it be budgetary resources, manpower resources, or even just process change that we're looking into, that they come at the right time. So this is kind of a graph that we often will go through, often when we're talking to employees and trying to get their engagement, but or joint health and safety committees, ergo committees, anyone really who's in a position where they are making suggestions for or recommendations for improvements, because we'll often find that we get stuck kind of making change and not making the right change. So when you kind of look at this, we want to have ideally, most of our solutions would be great if they came in low cost, short timeline, and high impact injury. And those are the examples we're going to be talking about shortly. The next best thing is the top of the tree kind of solutions, where we know they're not low time, we know they're not low cost, but we know they're the right thing to do. Whether it's going to improve our process, improve our business, improve the ergonomics, decrease injury, whatever our purpose or objective is, our high impact but high cost or high timelines kind of comes in second. So that first top half of the quadrant is definitely where we want to hang. So we're almost kind of hanging in the bottom and hanging in the top, and we're trying to make the best out of both of those and have balance. Where we want to not spend as much time is kind of in that orange, which is maybe where sometimes some of our low-hanging fruit will hang, which is it's low cost, low timeline, but not really going to make impact to injury. So we want to pick and choose how many of those we put out. I've been into companies before where I've started assessing and someone's asked me, you know, what am I doing? And I kind of explain to them, you know, I'm the ergonomist, I'm here, I'm just assessing your workstation. We're looking to kind of, you know, see if there's opportunity to improve. And they're like, oh, please don't touch my workstation. You know, every time they come out here and they make change, like it just makes my job harder. Like, please don't do anything. And that's definitely not what we want to be. And that's not our intention and not our objective. So somewhere along the line, that organization went on a tangent and it ended up in a place they definitely did not want to be. And that's not our intent. So we don't want to hang out in this high kind of bottom half of this square that we've got here. We don't want those they're not going to create an impact, whether it be low cost or high cost. So where are we getting our low hanging fruit solutions? Where are we getting these ideas from? And that is where the duct tape philosophy really comes into play. The duct tape philosophy is the idea that if you walk out your door right now and take a tour of your workplace and look at your employees' workstations, you know, the things around them, the things that they're interacting with, and the philosophy is, if you see duct tape, whatever it's doing, write it down. So if it's, you know, holding up a cardboard toilet paper tube, and write that down. And then the next thing you're going to look for is you're going to see if that duct tape is old and gross and disgusting. And if it is old, gross, and disgusting, you're going to start making stars and you're going to highlight and underline whatever that is. And then maybe you'll go and you'll talk to the employee and you'll ask, what is that duct tape and toilet paper roll doing at this workstation? And they're going to explain to you what it is doing. And there is your low-hanging fruit right there. We will very frequently get into kind of open discussions with management and employees, and management are afraid to ask employees what they think change should look like and what they think it should do, because they have this preconceived idea that the change options are going to be expensive, that they're going to ask for the world. And we know as management that we can't offer the world, at least not every day. And so we are hesitant to open up that line of communication. And I will tell you, more often than not, employees have low-tech, very simple solutions that are the perfect red apple in our low-hanging fruit. It is that low-cost, low-time, high-injury impact kind of control that we want to implement, because this duct tape philosophy is, if you have gross, disgusting, beat-up duct tape doing something in your workplace, then one person has done it, and everybody else, whether it be, you know, everyone else that uses that space or uses that workstation on other shifts, on other days, have not torn it down. So it is working for them as well. And that really is the premise and the ideal of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get kind of these, some of them are just seeds of an idea. Sometimes, you know, obviously we don't necessarily want duct tape cardboard rolls all over our workplace, but, you know, we could definitely get some PVS pipe. And if that was holding up a tool or something so they didn't constantly have to reach or bend down, that is the perfect solution. And that is what we are always trying to achieve in our kind of low-hanging fruit mentality or metaphor that we're talking about today. So first thing I would recommend, and I challenge you guys all to do, is go out and see if you guys have any duct tape solutions going on at your workplace. You can see the one we have here. we will footnote that image and say, obviously, maybe not the safest option, but the idea was there, the option was there, the employee had a problem and they tried to fix it. Did they do it in the most safe manner possible by sticking a chair in a thing of cement in a pail? No, but finding it, obviously he's not asking for a Cadillac of a chair with, you know, lazy boy recliner actions if this is what he's considering acceptable. So we could easily find, again, under $100, a chair that's going to make that workstation beneficial. And in this situation, the chair fit. It wasn't a kind of situation where we don't want chairs in the workplace or at that workstation and the employee keeps trying to drag one in. This was the perfect solution for this employee, and they tried to fix it themselves. So definitely put that on your radar. Duct tape solutions. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to make it better. Ask our experts what they would do. We need to stop being afraid of thinking that they're going to ask the world and give them the opportunity, because I really can't tell you how many times it's, oh, you just need to do this, and it's a work method thing, or, oh, you know, I just did this because the way it was hurting my back, and now it doesn't anymore. And they're just super quick things that they were able to do by walking around the plant or walking around the office or the lab, and within minutes make their workstation better. And that's always what we want to see. So getting into kind of some of our examples, we have kind of our general housekeeping and looking at organization and kind of the preventative maintenance and whatnot. Often we will see some of our bending and reaching and really kind of nasty, nasty body postures are coming about simply because of disorganization. We've let things kind of build up and people are reaching over things. The worst offenders, I will say, and one of you listening to me right now may be that person, and that is office. Our offices can sometimes have so much stuff. The underneath of our desk is a treasure trove of goodies. I've seen literally, and I'm not joking when I see 12 pairs of shoes, 12 underneath someone's desk, a gym bag, a purse, boxes of old files, plus the garbage bin, plus the recycling bin, and all of this has been under their desk. So my question is to you, where are their feet going? How is this individual who has everything but the kitchen sink under their desk able to pull into their workstation? And the answer is they're not. They're not able to. And so they're reaching forward, they're compromising their posture because they intend to move that stuff. It's going to happen one day, but we're busy and we get working and, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And so organization, general housekeeping, 5S, I know it all sounds kind of kind of rigid in what it needs to look like, but we definitely can see if we can streamline how parts are presented to our employees that are in manufacturing, how equipment is organized at our workstation or in our lab. Lab workbenches are notorious. There, you know, you have your pipettes, you have your plates, you have your vortexes, you have your centrifuges, you have all this equipment. And again, we have the pretzel of an employee trying to work around it all. So first point of low-hanging fruit that you could do today, and that is walk out and see where are your opportunities for general housekeeping, not just from a slip, trips, and falls perspective, because that's how we're used to looking at it, but how are people turning themselves inside out, working around their stuff. And that's definitely one that we can try and work with easily. Kind of in the same vein is reach distances. And I will tell you now, there may be some initial pushback on this one. People like to feel that their immediate personal space is clear of stuff. So as a result, and again, some of you on the webinar today may be one of these individuals where you push everything back, and whether it's your phone and your calculator that you answer probably 60 times in an hour, or it's your totes of parts that you've moved out of your way, but reach distances is one of not only the best ergonomic things to try and get rid of, but it's also one of your biggest production things to get rid of. If you can get rid of reach, you can lower cycle times or durations it takes to do things, and you can improve the body posture at the same time. So not only are we able to do it faster, but we can do it faster because the fatigue isn't setting in, because we're not exerting the muscles like we would need to if we were turning ourselves kind of reaching forward and bending all the time. So when we're looking at this diagram here is kind of, it's a CSA from the Z412 Office Ergonomics. And you can kind of see some of the numbers. So when you look at this, if I was to, make someone stand still and have their hands at elbow height, that kind of, if you tuck your elbow in and then just wave your hand side to side, that space should be where all of your very frequently used items are. And if all of them are right there, then your postures are going to be neutral for almost all of your day. Your secondary is going to impact your shoulder, but it's okay because we're not doing it all the time. We're only doing it occasionally. So occasionally we're going to move our shoulder into that secondary zone. And then lastly, will impact not just our shoulder, but it's also going to impact our back. And that's our tertiary zone. So this isn't arbitrary. I have numbers here. So I can actually take a tape measure, and whether or not someone's at their workstation and I can get them to hold their arm out, or whether I just go to the workstation and take a measurement to where the items in their space is, chances are I can bring either the rare stuff that's being used all the time into the secondary, which is now going to improve or reduce my back injury potential, or I can bring it into that primary, which is going to improve not just my back injury potential, but my shoulder injury potential. So you can see how, and some of you could do it right now. If you are one of those individuals where your phone or whatever items are at the very back of your desk, grab them, move them forward. Amazing, low-hanging fruit, high injury impact. The other one that can be kind of touchy is work methods. And this is where if you engage in some kind of participatory ergonomics program in your organization, you're flying. This becomes just such a great opportunity and such a great conversation, because what we'll see is that the people that have really good work methods end up being our leaders and our champions for good work methods for everybody else. Because the amount of things and knowledge that operators have and the little things that they do, and it's not everyone, it's not. And sometimes it is the people who have been injured in the past. If any of you have had a back injury, you may know how excruciating that is. And in your head, your body remembers that, and you work differently from other people because your body doesn't want to go back there. And that's fair enough. But what if you could take those things that your body is kind of doing and you're kind of guarding against so that we don't get injured, and share that information and turn it into, maybe a standard operating procedure or a best practice work method or a policy or procedure. And I've seen it for anything, whether it be lifting and handling, whether it be, one of the companies was they had to put the material over the seats of your car, and then it's two plastic clips that kind of clip in together. Well, for me, who I did not have a clue really what I was doing, I thought I was gonna have bruises in my fingertips. It was so hard to get those things to clip into, and yet these people were flying doing it. And when I asked, they were like, "Oh, you just do this, this, and this," and within 5 minutes, no pain. They clipped together super easy. I was able to, again, not only lower my chance of discomfort, but also increase my productivity. So look at some of those opportunities. Talk to the people that you know have really good work method. Ask them what they're doing. See if there's a way that you can grow your work method practice and get people talking about work method practices. Jen, who's one of the owners of Pro, there's three of us, there's Jen, Sarah, and myself, and she was doing some job coaching and at a wood mill. And actually Sarah does it too. She's been doing them quite regularly right now in healthcare. And basically it's been really eye-opening, because when we put it back, you'll often have two people who think they have really good work methods. And I think the one time that Jen left, she left and was getting ready to pack up and go. And her contact at the organization kind of came in and she's like, I can't believe this. They're on their lunch break and they are still arguing about which way is better. And they're compromising on certain things. And they're coming up with a third way that's better still. And it was just a really big, I think, a huge highlight for Jen, but also a massive movement for the coordinator of that organization. So don't discredit work method as being something that you can't control. It needs to be a conversation that we talk about, but it is one that is definitely a low-hanging fruit type of thing. It doesn't cost much. It may take a little bit more time because those work methods need to be learned and ingrained, and there's certain muscle memory that needs to happen, but at the end of the day, hugely impactful. Very, very impactful. And if that's how we train people from the get-go, then again, our opportunity for discomfort goes down. One of the very, very simple ones is your office setup. So, you know, putting your keyboard and mouse at elbow height, putting your monitor at eye height, those types of things. And if you can't get there, how can I adjust that otherwise? If we're looking at height issues, looking at ways to raise things up. So yes, from a reach distance, we want to pull things closer, but from a height perspective, we may want to take the things that we're bending down to and raise them up. And an easy example would be, I mean, yes, the gold standard would be a height adjustable lift table. That would be wonderful. But again, it's going to depend on your organization and your production and manpower, but what we will often see and recommend people do, or if we see it, we definitely don't say it's a bad thing. Sorry. And that's stacking pallets higher. So if I know that while we're working here, and this is something that I can get people, I can stack up 4 or 5 pallets, put it at elbow height, and they can load this, and then we can just take it down to a lower level once this gets, you know, maybe 1 or 2 rows high, then we have so much better, not only longer times in neutral postures, but just better body mechanics while we're lifting. Another one in the office setting would be your reams of paper underneath your monitor. If you're one of those individuals who doesn't have a monitor with a height adjustable pedestal stand or a monitor arm, then I will often either see them on the desk and they're potentially too low, or I'll see them they've been raised up, but on the CPU, which is too high. And it's always too high. Like, unless you're in one of those very, very tall individuals, it's usually always too high. But going into the photocopier room, getting a ream of paper, which is enclosed, so it's not slippy, it's not going to kind of slide off. But using one of those as kind of a monitor riser is a great low-tech, simple solution to make sure that the neck postures are neutral. So again, lots of opportunities, whether it be tooling that's stored too low and we can raise it up higher, or put it in a space that's, you know, closer to elbow height. Elbow height is going to be the landmark we're always trying to achieve, because that's what puts our body in the most neutral posture for the longest period of time. Another one that could be, you know, impactful, specifically if static standing is what your employees are required to do, then anti-fatigue matting may be the solution. This is one you may want to kind of spend, let me take a step back. This is one I will often see people run out and get because they see it as a low-hanging fruit, and then they get frustrated because they see employees kicking it away and not using it. Typically, the reason being is because there's more movement in that job where they're not actually seeing the benefit of the anti-fatigue matting. From someone whose job it is to stand there and watch other people, and they're usually on their piece of anti-fatigue matting, and I'm usually on the concrete kind of a few feet away in observing and recording and doing my data collection. At the end of an 8-hour day, I am very frequently asking that operator if I could encroach on their personal space and just use just a corner of their anti-fatigue matting, because the lower limbs and the lower back just ache so badly when you're on those hard surfaces for long periods of time and you do not have movement. So again, could be a great solution. You just need to make sure that the mobility requirements are not kind of defeating the purpose of having it. So if there's high walking, anti-fatigue matting can actually put higher injury risk, and we don't want that. Or if you're seeing they're not being used, it could be because the person's back and forth and moving, and it's become like an inconvenience or a trip hazard, or something's just bothering them. So, but for workstations where they are just standing all day, anti-fatigue matting can be a great low-hanging fruit to kind of move on, low cost, very simple, quickly to get into your workplace, and impactful again on their comfort. So kind of as we're going through, as I said, would definitely like to challenge you guys to take a step out of your office after this and take a walk and go and see, is there any low-hanging fruit that you could actually make change today, as of today? And then after today, kind of keep the low-hanging fruit in conversation going. Understanding when we're making those low-hanging fruit that are going to be in fact impactful, and when we're making those low-hanging fruit choices because the employees need to see something happening, or because it's something that the employees are excited about and it's definitely not going to harm anything, and we want to show that we're, this is a give and take. So whatever the objective is, just having clarity in that and making sure that that clarity is communicated to the appropriate stakeholders will always keep your program moving smoothly. You won't get stuck because nothing is happening. You won't get stuck because too much stuff without importance is happening, because everyone's going to be understanding why they're always doing something, and they're going to feel like not everything is a waste of time. And then on the other end, not everything is going to be a waste of money because it's just too expensive. So it gives a lot, it grounds your program, essentially. So look at what you have at your disposal to assist with identifying some of your items. Have you followed up on some of these items? Looking at what does your system look today, and where are your low-hanging fruit opportunities that we could start earmarking for change tomorrow or this week or this month? And which things are we going to need to build maybe a committee around or get more information around, and that are going to be kind of that top of the tree fruit that we're going to pick maybe later on when it's right. All right. So that pretty much rounds up our webinar. If you do have any questions, I have not seen any kind of come on, but there's various places where to look. So I may have missed some, but I will definitely, we'll be going through and trying to see if there's anything there that needs to be addressed. And if there is, we'll get back to you with those answers. One thing I would like to let you know, from now until June, the Pro will be offering a free registration for our Industrial Ergonomics Conference that we host every year. It is a fabulous event. We're going on our 4th year now, and it is really just geared towards ergonomic change. This year's topic is going to be knowledge to action. And if you're looking for a free registration, then we'll be sending out an email, and you can just respond to that, and we'll have a draw to see who wins the free registration for the month of January. And for those of you that are interested, please register for next month's webinar, which will be training to meet the CSA standard on office ergonomics. If you aren't aware, December of 2017, the CSA went from being a guideline, which was quite thick and a bit vague, to be honest, to a standard, which is about 140 or so pages, very concise, very informative, but there are specific requirements that you may need to meet if you are, if you have an office environment. So something to look into, and if you aren't aware of those changes and you're wanting to understand more about what you need to do to meet those new guidelines or standards, then join us on February 26th and learn about the new CSA standard. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you taking the moment out of your day to spend with us, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.